Hey, I'm Gianna, and today I wanted to talk about my cream blushes. I've amassed a bit of a collection because powder blushes just don't sit so great on my skin, and I've really loved the way that cream blushes kind of sink in, look really natural. So I've been shopping around, found some of my favorites, and I thought I'd do a little review session with y'all today. First, I wanted to talk about what I look for in a cream or liquid blush. So I'm looking at the buildability of it. So basically, am I able to layer it repeatedly without it being like really patchy or too pigmented in one spot, and then I spend like 10 minutes blending it out, which is not the point of cream makeup. It's supposed to be really quick and easy to blend. But also I want to make sure that the blush doesn't just disappear after you apply it. Otherwise, what is the point if it has so little pigment that it just... Also, I want it to be forgiving enough that if I accidentally apply too much, I don't have to spend 5 minutes dealing with this like clown situation on my face. I can kind of just smear it around, tap it out, or wipe it off, and it's not gonna leave huge marks of pigment. Also, as a woman of color, I want to make sure that it actually shows up on my skin tone, because sometimes natural looking blushes just kind of disappear into my tan complexion. So it's important to find that balance of having so much pigment that you can just kind of really go overboard with it super quickly, 0 to 100, or it just completely disappearing into my skin and me having wasted money on this product. Another thing that I look for is longevity. I'm really not a person who brings my blush with me every day to touch it up on the go. I have too many blushes that I cycle through. I would totally forget to put the right one in my bag. So I just want to make sure that when I go to check my makeup at lunchtime, it's not just like all that happy, cheery vibrancy is still there. I don't want it to just disappear and fade on me. Otherwise, what's the point for just like 2 hours of a cute blush? And then the last thing that I look for is blendability. I love to use my fingers to apply my makeup, and especially with cream products, that's like the whole point to me. So I want to make sure that even if it's better to use a brush in certain instances, I want to make sure that if I'm using my fingers, that's okay. Because I know that if I cannot use my fingers, I'm not going to use that product and it'll be a waste of money. So I'm going to get into my blush collection. I have 6 blushes to review, and I'm going to be going over my likes, dislikes, whether I think they're worth it, and also like a fun little tip, if you have it, that I found makes me get the most out of the product. Our first blush is Glossier Cloud Paint. If you've dipped your toe into the world of cream blush, this is probably one of the first ones you've heard of. It's in a little paint tube, looks just like painter's paint, and it is extremely pigmented. I think I've had my tube for like 3 years and I won't be running out of it anytime soon. So I have the shades Haze and Dawn. Haze is more of a berry, deep plum color, which is great for fall, but I also like to sheer it out and use it year round. And then I just picked up Dawn for the summer, and it gives you this like orange sunburnt look. I wore it on vacation in Jamaica, and it really fit that whole vibe, but I'm not so sure it's gonna work for me in the winter months. What I really like about it is that it's crazy pigmented, so all I do is just take a drop on my cheek and just dab it out, and that's literally all you need. Any more would be too much for me personally. And it's also super easy to spread. It's very liquidy, but sometimes it's a little too easy for me to spread and I go like all the way up to my brow bone. Also, it layers really well over foundation as well as on bare skin. So even if I'm doing a little more full coverage of a day, I can still get that natural looking flush with the cloud paint. Also, this cloud paint is super long wearing. I know that I'm gonna get like at least an 8-hour wear out of it anytime I put it on. It might be really pigmented at the beginning. I might just add a little bit too much, but by the end of the day, I still have a very noticeable flush, which is ideal. For my dislikes, it can almost be too pigmented sometimes, where if I'm in a rush, it's very easy for me to like squirt out too much and then have the clown situation going on. And then speaking of squirting out too much of the product, the packaging is really annoying. It's like a very small travel-sized toothpaste. Also, the little screw top is kind of finicky. I just don't really like reaching for it when I'm in a rush, but it is really easy to blend. If they just had a better applicator, this would be like my #1. So do I think it's worth it? Yeah. If there's a shade that you absolutely love and think you'll wear year round, I think totally go for it. The formula is super easy to work with. But maybe if you're not sure if you're gonna get year-round wear out of it, then maybe don't splurge and spend your money. They are like $18 US. Even though it is a little more expensive, since you only need such a tiny, like, pinprick amount of product, you will go through it super, super slowly, which can be good or bad. If you care about makeup expiration dates, I don't, so I'm gonna I'm gonna do this until it runs dry, but just something to keep in mind. And as for my tip, I love the way that these cloud paints mix with other cream and liquid blushes. I've started experimenting with taking like a drop of Dawn and a drop of the Flower Beauty blush balm that I'm going to talk about and mixing it together, and it just creates a really lovely, more natural plum color that's not as bold on the skin. And I just like the idea of that I can mix these paints to create different shades, and that's another way to stretch your use of it. Next, we're looking at Flower Beauty's blush balm, which is widely considered a dupe for Glossier's cloud paint, but I do find that Flower Beauty's color selection are more forgiving and a little less pigmented, so it's difficult to go overboard with it. And that's one thing I really like about it, is that in the morning I can really just slap it on and not have to worry about, one, it staining my fingers, or two, having to like clean up this messy mess of too much blush. So I really find myself reaching for it whenever I'm in a rush, just because of that ease of use. One thing I don't like is that while it is super easy to blend, if you blend it too much, it will just disappear and leave no trace. Also, it might just be my sloppy fingers, but I'm always in danger of bringing it up to my temple because it just has maybe sometimes too much slip, and that blending can just go, go, go. Also, this formula isn't nearly as long-lasting as Glossier's cloud paints, which is another con, but it is much more affordable at like $8 or $9. So is it worth it? I would say yes. This is a really great intro to cream liquid blushes. It's super affordable compared to similar liquid blushes such as Glossier's cloud paint. It's really easy to blend, and it's hard to go wrong with it. It's hard to really mess it up, so it's very forgiving to people new to using this technique. My tip is that if you don't feel like reapplying this liquid blush throughout the day, you can just set it with a similarly colored powder blush, and that will make sure it does not budge throughout the day. And you'll still get that same color payoff 8 hours later. Now we're looking at Milk Makeup's blush oil. I have this in this hot pink shade called Crave. I love the smell of this product. It's just so fresh and bright, and it totally fits with Milk's aesthetic of just being like really cool and dewy and youthful. I really like to use this shade in the spring and be a little heavy-handed with it, just to get that really like cherubic, angelic glow. I hate the packaging. I don't like it at all. It's this clicker thing that Milk does all the time, and I guess people like it, but I just find it so messy. So basically, if it's not over clicking and just spurting out all this blush oil at you, it's getting crusty when it dries, and then the next time you come to use it and you roll it on your face, you've got the new, fresh, wet oil, and also some dry, crusty bits from the last time, and that it does not blend out, so you have to like pick those off of your face. It's just not ideal, so I really don't find myself reaching for it as often as I would if the packaging wasn't ridiculous. Also, I find that I never travel with this because it just takes up more space than it should. Like, comparing it to the cloud paint, why is it twice the length? Just to compare it to some of the blushes I've just talked about, I find that I've kind of gone through this one faster than my Glossier cloud paint, but it's because I deliberately like to over apply this pink color, and I bought it specifically for this purpose, so I'm kind of okay with that. Also, I will note that there is significantly less product in the blush oil than the cloud paint. 4 milliliters versus 10 milliliters, and they're like the same price. So is it worth it? Honestly, still yeah. If you're looking for specifically a very glowy, bright, fun blush, then it checks all those boxes. Wearing this with minimal makeup just feels cool. Like, it's literally Milk's marketing at work, but I just love how fresh and young and hip I feel. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I think this blush really does what you think it will do. Make you feel like a Milk model. You just have to deal with some annoying packaging. Also, I just wanted to say that if you do have oily skin, I probably wouldn't recommend it unless you're doing the setting it with a powder blush thing. Otherwise, it's just gonna slip right off your face. My only tip for this product is just don't overclick it. It's really fun to do, but it's just really messy. Next, I'm looking at ColourPop's Super Shock Cheek product. I love their Super Shock formula. If you're not familiar, it's like a cream to powder formula. It's kind of squishy. when you press on it and you'll leave like an indent from your finger. But once you apply, it just glides on like a powder, and it lasts just like a powder would pretty much all day. They have great pigment, and they're also super affordable at only like $8 a pop. Colourpop. Also, they have a big color selection, so this is a great way to try out unique shades that you don't want to break the bank on, like purple, or like a hot pink, or orange, which is what I picked up. One thing that I don't like is that because it's powdery, it can kind of sit a little too flat on my face and not look as natural as other cream blushes. One thing that I found to help with this is using a synthetic brush. So just by dipping in the product with this and stippling it on delivers a much more natural look than if I were to use my fingers. But you know I love using my fingers. So that's a little frustrating to me because I can't use my fingers like I would like to if I'm in a rush. So sometimes I don't really go for this as often as I would because the color is so flattering. So is it worth it? Absolutely. Especially if you're looking for a unique shade outside of your comfort zone, this is an awesome opportunity to try it out at a really low price point. My tip for this product is more of a general blush tip, but don't overdo it at first. It's so much easier to slowly build pigment than to have to take it away, especially if you're doing a base and then you have to take off your foundation and start over, and it's just, you can avoid that whole thing and add dimension to your look by slowly building pigment in certain areas. Next, let's talk about NYX's Illuminating Stick. I have it in the shade Coralicious, and exactly like it says, it's a bright coral shade with tons of shimmer. So I really like that it has a lot of shimmer. I didn't expect that at first when I bought it, but now that we understand each other, I really like using it as a blush topper if I'm wearing a coral or pink tone blush. It adds a really nice bit of shine, especially if you're going for like a more highlighter based look. On its own, it can be a little weird to just have this like shimmer bomb of color on your face, but I kind of like it for a no makeup day. It's kind of weird. But sometimes you just want to have a bright cheek and do a bold look, and this is a really affordable way to do it. These run like $8 or $9. Also, the packaging isn't annoying. It's just in a little chubby stick. The cap doesn't come off. It twists up. What more do you want? The only thing I really disliked about it is that I had different expectations. I didn't think it would be as shimmery, but now that I know what to expect from it, it performs exactly like I expect every single time that I use it. It's really dependable. It has a specific purpose, and it does it really well. They also have less shimmery shades if you don't want to go for that blush top or almost highlighter-like look. And I think they also have bronzing sticks too if you're looking for an affordable cream bronzer. So is it worth it? I think if you really like the shade, totally go for it. They also have some like icy purples that are really cool. I don't think the formula is going to blow your mind. It's just kind of a basic cream blush. But they're not expensive, and it's a cool way to try out fun colors. My tip for these is to definitely swatch them if you have the chance at an Ulta or drugstore or at the NYX store. And also go outside into sunlight or anywhere where there's light hitting your face, because even though I swatched it, I did not see all of that glitter and shimmer until I was out in the real world. So just make sure you know what you're signing up for. Lastly, I want to talk about the newest addition to my cream blush family, and that is Tower 28 Beauty's Beach Please Tinted Balm. And I have it in the shade Magic Hour, which is a rosy nude. What I love about this is that it's so freaking natural looking. I didn't have any more nude blushes in my collection, so I love that this is pink, but still is really natural and kind of just sinks into my skin. The formula on this is like nothing I've tried before, honestly. It blends in so well, but doesn't disappear. It's kind of incredible, and sometimes I'll honestly forget that I applied it, and I'll look at the mirror and be like, wow, I have a really nice, like, natural rosy flush going on, and I'm like, oh, yeah, duh, because I applied this blush, that's why. The formula is also very forgiving when blending, so it's really hard to go overboard with this, and if you want a layer to build up pigment stronger in some areas, it does that great too. One thing I dislike is that since I'm sticking my finger in the pot to apply it, there's, like, a lot of lint in there right now, which isn't the biggest deal, but it's just kind of like gross to look at. Also, I think there could be more product since it is $20 and it has about half the quantity as the Glossier Cloud Paint. And since this is a more buildable formula, I find that I'm going through it a bit quicker than I would the Cloud Paint, but we'll see how long it takes me to go through this. I've already ordered another color because I'm so in love with this formula, so it seems like something I'll probably just suck up and do anyway. So is it worth it? I would definitely say yes if you've been looking for a cream blush formula that gives you a dewy look, is super natural, and pretty much foolproof. I really am super impressed with this formula, and I can't wait to grow my collection of these balms. My tip is to just make sure your fingers are clean so it doesn't get grody. So with all that considered, here's how I break down these 6 blushes in rankings from worst to first. Number 6 is the NYX Illuminating Stick. It's great for the job that it does. It's not something I reach for every day, but you know what you're going to get when you call it in. Number 5 is the Milk Blush Oil. It's just a really specific use for me personally. 4 is colourpop. I really love this formula and the color selection, but I need to be able to use my fingers to really claim it as my favorite blush. So for now, spot 3. Spot 4. Third are Glossier's Cloud Paints. These are my introduction to liquid cream blushes, so they have a soft spot in my heart, but they're just a little bit too pigmented for me. I can't really rush through applying them, which I do every morning. So 3rd place. 2nd place are Flower Beauty's Blush Bombs, just because they're a little more forgiving than Glossier's Cloud Paints. I can kind of just slap them on and head out the door, and that's what I'm really looking for in a cream formula. 1st place is Tower 28's Beach Please Tinted Balm. I know I just got this, so definitely recency bias, but it is such a great formula, and the color is so flattering. It's unlike anything I've had in my collection, so I'm just super psyched that it's on my team now, and 1st place. So if you're looking to start or grow your cream blush collection, I would totally recommend checking out Tower 28's Tinted Balm. And if you've tried it, let me know what you think of it. So that wraps up my rankings and reviews of my cream blush collection. If you're looking to dive into the world of cream blushes or grow your collection, or you just haven't found the perfect one yet, I hope this video was helpful to you. And I'd love to hear if you've tried any of these and have different thoughts or have any recommendations. Let's chat about it. Thanks so much for joining me for this video. I will see you in the next one, and I hope you have a wonderful day.